Nelson Mandela's greatest teaching was the concept of Ubuntu, the concept of umoja, the concept that he is because of those around him. And those around him are also because of who he is. And in telling the story of this great man's interaction with the Jewish community of South Africa, we're showing exactly how the community has affected who he became, and also how he affected the community and how he affected the spirit of the community and what they've become.
Mandela's been projected as a saint and a miracle worker. Well, one miracle I can attest to myself, and that is he got me to go to shul.
And the Talmud talks about mipnei darkei shalom, out of the ways of peace. That none of us is allowed to restrict himself and herself to his or her own little group, own little ethnic group, religious group, cultural group. That all of us have a responsibility to build bridges.
My wife came up to him and said, Mr. Mandela, would you like to have the lunch inside or outside? He said, outside, I've been inside too long.
You were brave enough to speak your mind.
They were at the SABC one day and there were children coming to see Mr. Mandela, and one child was blind. And Mr. Mandela walked down the line of children shaking hands and speaking to them. He speaks to everybody. He stopped and spoke to the child, and the boy said to him, I can't see you and I'd like to feel your face. And he knelt down in front of him and let the boy put his hands over his face so that he could feel his features.
For your legacy.
All these little stories of individuals just doing the right thing to other human beings. That for me is what hopefully we will all come out of this book.
My foundation is committed to ensuring that future generations of South Africans understand their history, understand where they come from. And the history of the Jews of South Africa is as important as any other aspect of the history of this country. And I want future generations of Jewish people in this country to know what the link was between Nelson Mandela, this great icon of our time, and the community that they should so proudly be part of.
And I sat next to him at one of our Board of Deputies Saturday night event. He said, let me ask you, how many Jews are there in South Africa? At the time, 120,000. He said, I just don't believe it. And he said, you know, that's what a small group of people can achieve if they committed to something. And they obviously committed to South Africa, to their own future and to the future of others.
One has to say Jews were whites, participated in the benefits that whites got. A lot of the white racism and sets of assumptions seeped into the Jewish community as elsewhere. But there was enough of the legacy, the sediment, if you like, of the prophetic vision of the world. Many Jews joined the labor movement. They came as poor workers, first of all. Many were in the Communist Party, others joined the Liberal Party, because of a certain hope for something better and a certain detestation of racism.
I met him on Robben Island, and there was this tall, imposing man, good-looking, very well-spoken, who thrust his hand through the bars of the cell and said, very glad to meet you. And I shook his hand and said, I'm glad to meet you. Now tell me about the conditions here.
Thanks for your integrity.
The first firm to employ him was a Jewish firm. And, you know, the lawyer he worked with said, in this office, those cups, they're not for black people, they're not for white people, they're for all people. He says, those toilets, they're not for black people, they're not for white people, they're for all people. He said he learned his first non-racist lesson from his Jewish attorney who employed him.
Very often, the meetings that we had, which were formal meetings, the union building type meetings, were very difficult. The one occasion I remember that South Africa were going to sell a sighter for a gun to Syria. And we impressed on him that that sighter in that gun would be used against Israel. And these are the kind of difficulties that we were able to discuss with him.
Well, I think Mr. Mandela's whole life as head of state and everything he did showed many things. One was a respect for other people.
Tony, you know as well as I do that the reason why there are so many people here at this moment is purely out of curiosity. They want to see what a pensioner from the colonies looks like.
Saturday morning, when it was awarded, FIFA phoned us early that morning to say, is Mr. Mandela coming? And we said, only if we're getting it. It's not fair otherwise. They said, that's your call. And at 10 to 12, FIFA phoned us and said you could bring Mr. Mandela. We then knew we had the cup.
The exhibition of the children at Yad Vashem is completely in darkness. There's one candle in the middle, and there are mirrors lighting up 1.5 million lights, because 1.5 million children perished in the Holocaust. And we were meant to go to the next place, and we were standing outside waiting for him, and he didn't appear. He was still in the children's section. He could not bring himself to leave that section because he has this wonderful affinity with children.
He understands what power means, he understands how to exercise power, he understands the limits of power. And he understands the importance of law.
What we learn from the people in the book, President Mandela as well as each individual he came in contact with, is they didn't always do the biggest act that changed the world, but they did the correct thing. They were good to that certain person at the certain time. And if that can be educated to us and our children and our children's children, then the book has been a very worthwhile exercise.
Never, never, and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another.
This initiative is about celebrating the fact that the Jews of South Africa have inextricably woven themselves into the fabric of what is South Africa today. Jewish involvement in the African National Congress, in the liberation struggle, in the development of South Africa as a viable economy is absolutely undeniable. And there will not be a successful South Africa without a thriving Jewish community. And there cannot be a thriving Jewish community without a successful South Africa. And the purpose of this initiative is to remind us about this inextricable link. We need to be very proud of the contribution we've made to South Africa, and we also need to reaffirm our commitment to ensuring the success of this country.
Trust you.